A very warm welcome to our session here. We are excited to have joining us in SkillsFuture month at SIT. I'm Sharifah Hana, an undergraduate from SIT, and I will be a student host for this session. The title of this session is Digitalisation, Transformation, and Employment Trends in Accountancy, Finance, and Legal Sectors. We are honoured to have our speakers from Temasek Polytechnic, Mr. Daniel Ng, Anita Parkash, and Jamin Ong. Without further ado, let us welcome Mr. Daniel Ng.
Thank you, Sharifah. Welcome, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to the SkillsFuture workshop on digitalization, transformation, and employment in the accountancy, legal, and finance sectors. Now, contrary to common understanding, the disruption in these professions are set to increase in the next 5 years, but the jobs in this profession are also set to increase. Through this session, we hope to provide you with an overview of the macro trends affecting these industry sectors and the future skill sets that you need to thrive in them. At present, we only know that around 472 attendees registered for this event. To help us understand more about you and help us understand what you're interested in, can we ask for you to take 2 poll questions so that we can address your concerns more adequately? Yeah. So I've launched the polls and audience, if you could help us by answering this. Yeah. As we can see, this is a new digital practice that replaces the face-to-face polls when we ask audience to raise their hands in a face-to-face session, right? Well, at present, we have around 50% of the audience from accountancy-related accounting-related jobs and interests, and a fairly equal mix of the rest from the banking, finance, IT, law-related, and others. Yeah. Okay. Maybe I'll also ask for a second area where we've tried to understand you. Yeah. I'm launching yet another poll. So hopefully you don't get fatigued. And I promise you this will be the last one. Yeah. Which topical areas would you be really interested for our coverage today? If you could answer this second question as well. This will allow us to prioritize your time so that you can understand that we can cover it adequately to address your needs. Yeah. Okay, we can see that the technologies is getting a lot of interest. At the same time, we also can see that there's interest in how practices are changing in the professions, and maybe the employment trend has lesser interest at this moment. Thank you so much for participating. I'll keep the live poll results on so that you can see what's going on. Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you for taking this poll. The agenda for today will have the panel sharing on how digitalization will affect the professions. We will talk a little bit about the technologies today, how these technologies are creating new practice areas, and the future employment trends, as indicated earlier. Okay. Now, today, everyone thinks innovation is about computer and IT, whereas really, innovation is about fresh ideas to meet human needs. If we look on a very long arc back into our history, one of the earliest business innovation was published in 1496 by the Italian priest Luca Pacioli. Now, those of us from the accounting fraternity will know that he documented double entry and how it was practiced amongst Venetian merchant banks. These banks, merchant banks, were sending trading ships around the world, and they needed proper records. Yeah. Now, why did I say accounting as an innovation happened in 1494? Is because this practice, his documentation of this practice, was created by converting the Roman, the I, V, X's, the Roman numerals to the Arabic 0 to 9 numerals. And combining it with bookkeeping, this individual helped transform and create the practice of modern banking and also establish accounting as a language of business for the next 500 years. Fast forward 500 years, and we'll come to the technology front. Now, I'm not going to read out one by one, but maybe you can see how fast and furious the changes have been. We have, in 1950, we started with a very basic mainframe, and then the introduction of ATMs and automation of telegraphic transfers, money transfers around the world. By the 1980s, we have personal computers and the Microsoft Productivity Suite. And when we move, the internet took off. By 1998, everyone talks about fintech being a new thing. 1998, the first of the amongst the first of the fintech companies, PayPal was started. Through the 2000s, there were many commercial APIs where data was shared. Now, the main thing about all this is that businesses are now exploiting the benefits of technology. And the benefits of technology initially were efficiency, cost savings, accuracy, and in the later part led to competition, better agility, and ability to enhance security. In short, ability to engage customers in a deeper and more meaningful manner. Now, the timeline is very abstract, so let's contextualize it with some pictures, yeah? Okay. Till the 1950s, banks were predominantly fortresses of accounting ledgers and cash. Now, in 1950, the introduction of the mainframe started digitalization and centralized control. It enabled the banks to create branches on a wider geographical spread. And this developed all the way till the late 1990s, such that basically almost everyone, the bank became endemic to many population centers around the world. Now, ATMs as a means extended the banks and branches' ability to serve customers. Now, today, the banks are no longer about branch banking, but mobile. A bank in our hand, hopefully 24/7 for 365 days a year, is the reality. And it does this by connecting multiple devices that work in connection and concert. Now, when we trace this developmental arc, what we see is not a loss of jobs, but a transformation of jobs. The next piece I'm showing you is actually a survey of what are the job functions available in the banking industry. It shows that there are new jobs being created, and the weeks for banks to hire, the time it takes for bank to hire employees in these areas are surprisingly very long. So what we are seeing is a situation where this arc has created new demand for new skills. Yeah. So if we were to look at 2021 and beyond, what are the technologies that will enable our changes in the way forward? According to Forbes, the 25 technology trends that will define the next decade includes these 8. We are picking these 8, which includes data analytics, AI, big data, cloud computing, as well as blockchain. Maybe distributed ledger would be a better word, security, RPA, and user experience as the key areas that we will cover today. Now, these areas are going to bring substantial changes in the professions. The digital innovation in these areas carries profound ethical, technical, and human resource implications. Driving these changes are the same forces as outlined previously. That is basically efficiency, savings, accuracy, and the bank's ability to engage customers in a very competitive and agile and secure way. Yeah. Now, joining us today are 3 representatives, a representative for 3 state boards. They are Anita Prakash from Singapore Academy of Law, my esteemed colleague Jermaine Ong from Singapore Accountancy Commission, and myself, I'm Daniel Ng from Temasek Poly. With that, maybe I'll just invite the panel to do a little bit of welcome of you to the audience, and then we will move on to the first question. Yeah. Anita, over to you.
Thanks very much, Daniel. And hey, everybody. Thank you so much for spending your lunchtime with us. I hope this is going to be fruitful for you. It certainly is a useful way to spend my afternoon. So, as Daniel pointed out, I'm from the Singapore Academy of Law, where I work with a team of professionals looking at learning and development, professional development, so continuing learning for legal professionals. And I use that word very intentionally. We're no longer just talking about lawyers, all you IT specialists and business and management specialists and financial specialists out there. There's a home for you in the legal industry, and I think we'll talk about that more in this session. Jamin, over to you.
Hi everyone, I hope you can hear me clearly. Okay, thank you. Same thing, thank you for spending your lunchtime with us. I'm Jamin, head of the strategy and planning team at the Singapore Accountancy Commission. So part of what my work does is I work closely with the industry, with the relevant government agencies, as well as professional bodies to really understand the different trends, technology, regulatory, industry trends on the sector itself. And then we chart strategies to plan how we can help the sector to better transform themselves and add value to everyone in the ecosystem. Yeah, so looking forward to have a very interesting and meaningful discussion with all of you here. Thank you.
Okay. In audience, just a gentle reminder that you are welcome. In fact, we seek your help to make this session very lively by asking questions in the live Q&A part of the portal. Right. Thank you, panelists, for your intro. Shall we move on to the first question? Okay. Okay. Now, I think in the area of the accountancy and legal professions, we have always heard about all these technologies coming in and playing a key role in this transformation. Could we actually start this whole session by asking Anita as well as Jermaine, what are the key technological developments that are affecting your respective sectors? Over to you, panelists. Please feel free to jump and vary the question if you should think variation is more valid. Let's make it our own, yeah? Jamin and Anita?
Okay, I can start. I can start this. So actually, for the accounting sector, I will probably say that technology developments have started actually more than 10 years, 15, 20 years ago already. It's not something new. Okay, of course, the pace of technology and digitalization has accelerated somewhat. I'm sure everyone can sense that during the COVID pandemic, digitalization has actually accelerated quite a fair bit. Okay, so for accounting sector, it's nothing new. In fact, we have been working with a professional body such as ISCA, the National Accountancy Body, Institute of Singapore Chartered Accountants, to help accounting firms to digitalize, for quite some time already. Okay, of course, this is an ongoing journey. For all of us who are familiar with technology, you know that it will never stop. It will probably keep evolving. Okay, so some of the key technologies that the industry has been probably, I would say, have a large impact these days. One is probably what we call cloud computing. Okay, currently we can see that with all the digitalization, more companies, okay, whereas the accounting firms or their clients or the service providers, there's much more data available. Okay, so putting them on the cloud makes much more sense to enhance accessibility and so on. Of course, with that, then we talk about the cyber security aspects. So accounting firms these days are also very much looking after, making sure that they have the right IT and governance policies in place to ensure both themselves, their data are secured, as well as helping the businesses or clients have very effective and robust cyber policies in place. The other thing is probably what we call intelligent automation. Okay, for the sector, we know that in the past, there's not really a lot of available technologies to help accountants with inputting data, okay, into the systems. So I'll probably say in the past, we spent a lot of unnecessary time doing data entry work. But now with much more available technology and all this availability of data, intelligent automation is something that the firms are really actively trying to explore. How can they use RPA technologies and so on to try to effectively input data as well as process some of the data for further analysis. Because for accountants, of course, we are talking very much about what does the data tell us, okay, the insights that can be generated, rather than spending the time to input the data into a system. Okay, so this is probably the second technology that has increasingly impacted the firms to a good effect. And probably the other thing is that a lot of firms are now looking at AI and analytics. Okay, analytics has been a while, maybe for the last 5 to 10 years, but I'll probably say it's still evolving very much. People are picking up the skills. They are providing analytics. A lot of the companies, accountants, are using analytics to do what we call storytelling, to generate better insights about the businesses and so on. Okay, so that it helps the businesses to grow or become more efficient. Okay, AI is something that's up and coming. Probably I would say that at this moment in time, our AI in accountancy are not that mature yet. Okay, but probably it will, in time to come, be able to help the sector problem solve a lot of the more complex issues that they have been looking at for a while. Okay, so we're probably looking very hard at AI at the moment. Okay, so these are the 4 areas that I probably will highlight to everyone out here. So maybe right now over to Anita for the legal sector.
Thanks, Jamin. So much of what Jamin said is relevant to legal services as well. And it's no coincidence that both of us are on the same panel, because we fit into that basket of professional services, right? And so broadly, you can categorize the digitalization of the legal services industry along kind of 3 broad arcs. There is the piece around legal services delivery, right? So these are going to be all the tools that enable you to deliver legal services in a more efficient, productive manner. Automation, big data, so data analytics plays some role in that. So your contracts management systems, no longer do they just file documents automatically, but they read through a particular document and flag if there are particular clauses that seem problematic, right? So all of this is machine learning. And that's a way in which the data analytics piece and the process automation piece come together. Another area is, of course, sense making around who the client is. So client relationship management systems are a norm in many, many other industries. But in professional services, right, for the longest time, it's a very high touch model of relating to your client. Increasingly, we realize you can actually harness data analytics to understand your client a lot better, understand the circumstances, understand their motivations, and in law at least, understand the context of the case, right? And so if you're managing a case, the more and better you understand context, the better you are able to problem solve. So that's the piece around legal services delivery. Then you have the stuff that is impacting the law itself. And here distributed ledger technology, also known as the blockchain, is enabling a bunch of tools called smart contracts. So in the old days, you have a paper document, and then in the less old days, you have a Word document. But all this means it's still people that are the intermediaries, right? You need the paper document to be digested through a human brain and some human action before you trigger a particular cause or effect. With smart contracts, all of that is digitalized and automated. And so the if then else logic applies, right? It's an entirely digital tool. You can code it to say, well, if this happens, then it triggers another activity, or else this other activity. And if you think about it, one example that's been bandied about is insurance payouts. Right now, it's a physical contract. There are many people involved. But if it's a smart contract, upon the occurrence of a particular event, a smart contract could trigger a change of things that lands up in an automated payout to the kind of beneficiary's bank account, right? So that's going to change the very fabric of society. And then there are implications for the nature of law in response to that. So that's the other piece that we're seeing. The final piece really is around And it's the cybersecurity, but also linked to cybersecurity, the idea of cloud computing and all the rest of it. So this is really about interconnectedness, right? Cloud computing enables more interconnectedness. More interconnectedness raises more issues around security. So in the field of data protection, for example, when you have personal data flowing back and forth, how do you safeguard that data, not just from an infrastructure and process point of view, but from a rights and responsibilities point of view? And so, IMDA, for example, and the Personal Data Protection Act literally created this new job role, right, known as the Data Protection Officer, because this is one area where literally the technology has created a new job role, and it's a field in which the legal services play quite a large part. So to tie back to what Daniel said a bit earlier, we're seeing, first of all, technology disruption isn't old, right? When stone became paper and paper became a PC and fax machines became email, all of that is some form of technology disruption. What we're seeing is an acceleration of the pace of that disruption and the scale of that disruption and the interconnectedness of that disruption. But while it can be a little scary, we're also seeing that there's a lot of opportunity because new areas of law are emerging, new areas of expertise are emerging. And it really is up to us to kind of see what we can do to seize those opportunities, even as other areas of work become deprioritized. Thanks, Daniel.
Yeah, then maybe.
Sorry to interrupt, because there are some questions that come in that are so relevant to what is being discussed here. And I think I want to pick up two pieces. First, I think I'll pick up on where Anita left off about disruption. I think there was an anonymous statement stating something like, as a career accountant, someone who has climbed up the corporate ladder, but subsequently they also were replaced by younger colleagues, and they are in the midst of now new job search. What do you think would be career options or new skills that this person should acquire so as to be able to re-enter the workforce? I think that, I'm looking at the question Q&A panel. I thought this was a very interesting question, and I thought later on we can have our take on it. But that's one. And then picking up on Jermaine's speech about the various technology, there is also a question about what are we seeing in the area of AI and maybe RPA, right? And how it's evolving from a coach or assistant to maybe even a teammate or potentially a human bot in alongside working alongside you in solving problems. So I thought those two were quite relevant, and I thought I wanted to highlight to you. Jermaine, before I cut you off, what were you saying?
Okay, so it's also largely to touch on these questions as well. I saw the questions as well. So I thought I wanted to also bring up this point that probably based on these questions that I saw and a lot of other reports outside, we always hear that people are concerned that technology is going, or these robots are going to replace accountants. But so far, based on the data that we have, that's not quite true. So for us, we have been collecting data, of course, historical data on the number of jobs in the accounting sector. We also engage consultants to help us look at projecting the future number of job roles that's going to be available, the demand for accountants. And the data do tell us that yes, although technology has impacted some job roles, because just now I touched on that in the past, we have to spend a lot of time doing data entry work. Okay, but technology is coming in to help with this. But because of the explosion or the amount of data that we have, actually what we see is that the number of accounting jobs, the demand for the jobs have actually increased, because now there's more data, there's much more work to be done to analyze the data and to help the businesses make sense of the data. We are seeing an increasing demand for accounting jobs. Okay, so we conduct the annual census on the accounting firms. Okay, we have been doing it for the last 5 to 6 years. Okay, we take away the COVID year, and we have been seeing historically year-on-year growth in terms of the number of accountants. And particularly interestingly, the number of jobs in what we call IT advisory, where accounting firms are providing advice to their clients on IT, has increased, and this provide over the last 3 to 4 years the largest amount of jobs that's been created. Okay, and interestingly, in the that our consultants hang out in the next 1 to 5 years, the next 5 years, there will continuously be growing demand for accountants because most companies operating in Singapore is a business hub. So we have most of the big companies having their base in Singapore. Most of the data also resides here, and that's where they need accountants to make sense, okay, of the numbers, okay, and generate meaningful insights for them to see how they can grow their businesses, how they become more efficient and more effective at doing their business around the region. Okay, so that's why the consultants are telling us that, despite all these concerns about technology, they are actually saying that we will probably need more accountants in the few years to come. So on the question of new skills, so what we are seeing that right now, because of this explosion of technology, there are actually increasing more different type of job roles available in accounting. Most people will probably think that accounting is either about audit or financial accounting, but there's actually much more job roles. So inside the skills framework for accountancy, we did the first version in 2017. 25 job roles were identified. We revised it in 2019, and now we suddenly have 43 job roles identified. Okay, and in the latest studies that were conducted, the consultants are also highlighting that there may be more emerging job roles that may be created in the next few years as well. Okay, and mostly due to technology related. Okay, and I just want to touch on the point that accountants are valued for a variety of skills. Okay, communication skills, analytical skills, accounting skills. Okay, business acumen skills, because I think if someone has been working in the industry for a long time, okay, in the financial accounting, they will have a good understanding of how a business operates. That is actually a transferable skill that they can bring across to any other job roles. Okay, yes, technology is also increasingly one of the new skills required, but I probably advise the person who asks the question that you may want to explore the skills framework. Okay, there are quite a number of job roles to identify, and then you may want to identify what are the transferable skills that you may have, because inside the skills framework, we realize that there are a lot of skills that are actually common across different job roles. Okay, there may be some roles, probably in financial accounting, that might have been impacted due to we are using more technology, but there are also many other job roles that's being created. So I think for current accountants, whether you are still inside the sector or not, you may want to take a serious look at the skills frameworks that we have. And then from there, you may also, if you belong to any of the professional bodies, you actually can also work with your professional body to look at which are the new job roles that you can transit into as well. Okay, and probably one advice that for us accountants, we probably have to actively manage our careers. Definitely the economy, the technology trends, all these will keep evolving. So down here, we are also responsible for our own career management. And if we actively manage our career, properly acquire the necessary skills, we probably will have a very meaningful career to come. Because right now, as I mentioned, the consultants that we've engaged are telling us that there will be strong demand for accountants in the next 5 years. Over to you, Anita.
Yes, I agree with that, and I think, Anita, before you come in, right? I think during one of the recent launch, Minister Indrani says that the accounting and the legal practices should come as a pack. Over to you. I think you have probably some to say there. Yeah.
That's right. So that comment was actually on the back of the Committee of Future Economy report.
Yes.
Where they looked at professional services, accountancy, and legal being two of the pillars, right? And it's very important because I think, the old mindset, right, is professionals are very guild-like. We do artisanal work. It's very high touch. Your models of learning are mentorship. You learn by trial by fire. They throw you in the deep end, you practice. That has its virtues, right? That's a very high expertise focused model. But what that doesn't respond to is the increasing need for multidisciplinary approaches and team-based solutions to solving complex problems. Because at the end of the day, whether you're an architect or an accountant or a lawyer or any other professional, you are at core a subject matter expert problem solver, right? And it's that your value is in your ability to problem solve effectively for your client. And I think, to respond to some of the questions about what are the important skill sets, it's important when talking about digitalization to look at what kind of digital skills will help support you in becoming a more effective problem solver, right? So there are tools out there that help with understanding context through big data. So your data analysis skills are probably worth stepping up so that you can make better sense of the information that can then allow you to problem solve better. Because at the end of the day, right, most clients don't care how you get there. They just care that you get there in a way that is efficient and cost effective and in their best interests. And if that means you being a better data analytics person so that you can sense make more effectively, then as an individual, I would go, yeah, maybe that's something I'll look into upskilling in. So at the core of this really is the fact that we're dealing with a more complex world that has more complex problems that we can't solve in silos. And so collaboration and improved ways of sense making are important. And so I would personally focus on those areas, right? Skills that allow me to be better at sense making and skills that allow me to be a more effective collaborator. So Jermaine alluded to your communication skills, your teamwork skills. Those don't exist out of context. In order to be a good team player, you kind of have to be able to understand the language that the person across from you is speaking. So if I'm working in a multidisciplinary team, I'm working with a tech expert, I'm working with an IT expert, there is a certain baseline awareness you need to have so that you can identify when you are out of your depth and you want to let the other wisdom lead, right? Handing off to a tax expert or handing off to an IT expert. So learning broad is very important these days. It's not enough to learn narrowly. You kind of need, kind of a general awareness. What does your industry look like? Who are the key stakeholders? What are the key developments? And have a facility to converse with other professionals in this space. So, an old model of skills is the T-shaped professional. You have at the crossbar all the transferable skills, and then you have deep domain expertise in one or two areas. That still holds true. It's just that your transferable skills now are driven by digitalization. And so kind of building up those skill sets are pretty crucial as far as communication, collaboration, sense making through data, etc. are concerned.
I think we have moved our discussion in a way that is very reflective of it being organic. So what happens is that we see a jigsaw puzzle fitting in. So Anita and Jermaine has already moved on to what are the skills that we need in the future. Yeah, the future skills, the T-shaped domain, or in certain cases, even with students with a double major, a pie-shaped domain, rather than a previous model of an I-shaped silo. I think that's very interesting to have heard it from Anita. Jermaine, would you agree with that comment? Because there are a lot of questions about the key skill sets of a worker of tomorrow.
Yeah, actually, I have additional points to add on. I think Anita shared very well on what is required. So, inside the same report, the CFE report that she mentioned, there were certain areas of emerging practices, okay, that were identified. Okay, so I think one can refer to the CFE report or else the relevant skills framework to look at where are all these new jobs or the growth jobs being identified. Okay, so for example, businesses are very concerned about valuation issues these days. Regulators are concerned as well. So an increasing emerging job role that has been identified, okay, and a lot of work has been done in this area is business evaluation. We are also looking at a lot of governance, security related job roles. Restructuring insolvency is also something up and coming, given that Singapore is trying to become a restructuring hub as well. You know, that's going to create a lot of work for both accountants and lawyers in the years to come. Okay, Singapore will remain as a business hub. Okay, a lot of HQs are also going through their own transformation. Okay, with all the pandemic and going. Okay, the focus on Singapore will probably see them focusing on what we call the higher value type of job roles. Okay, so the skill sets, as I mentioned or anytime mentioned, is really about solving the problems. You are there to manage and coordinate the uh, uh, the work across, at the regional level for the company, okay, or for the clients. Ability to make sense of data, okay, ability to solve the problems, ability to collaborate, because you are not going to work on a silo basis. You're going to probably work with accountants working with lawyers, vice versa. You may be working with colleagues across the region as well, collaborative skills. And I think what Anita brought up that I think even if you are not an expert at IT, okay, then you need to have you may need to know how to collaborate or talk to somebody in the IT side, because that will definitely come in. When we engage some of the major employers in the sector, we ask them, do you need somebody with more accounting skills versus IT skills and so on? A lot of them will tell us that actually the key skills they require will still be accounting skills, but definitely the knowledge and understanding of how technology may be used or how it will impact the industry is relevant. Okay, so you probably may need to know how to work with another person that's good at IT. Okay, they are going to work extensively with lawyers, just like Minister Indrani brought up, that accountants and lawyers are actually working together. You may be serving the same client, but you're looking at different areas. So the ability to know how to collaborate, how to talk effectively to one another is very important. Okay, I wanted to also bring up this example. So I have somebody I mentored in the past lah, and he was working as an accountant. Okay, in his first 2 years, and then when his company was going through digitalization, and then he was actually asked to help the company do RPA, robotic process automation, to learn and then how to automate certain processes. Actually, he was very concerned at that point in time. He came to me and asked, "Now, will this take away his job in future?" And I told him, you should embrace it, because a lot of companies will be going through it. Okay, it will not take away his job. In fact, he will probably be one of those with the pioneer, considered one of the pioneer of the skills. And after that, 1 or 2 years later, he came back to me and said that actually it really helped him now, because he has RPA skills. He actually managed to move to a bigger company, okay, to do similar work, okay, but not at a much bigger company with, of course, better pay package. And more recently, I was very surprised to find that he actually also relocated to Germany. Okay, so the new skills actually helped him to move up the career ladder a lot. So that's why I probably advise somebody to actively manage the career. Do embrace. If you have concerns, please just talk to somebody who may have much more experience in this area. They probably will be able to advise you whether doing certain things is in the correct direction. Okay, but multidisciplinary skills, like what Anita has mentioned, is going to be increasingly valued. Okay, so someone I'll probably advise someone, don't be too fearful. Embrace things. Although the whole economic landscape is changing, okay, but a lot of times, if one actively manage what he or she is doing as well as learning, there will probably always be a job for them, because as we both anytime alluded, there are increasing more job roles being created out of all these changes. Okay, so one just has to need to stay abreast of what the trends are. Okay, don't be worried. If you worry, talk to a more experienced person, talk to a mentor, talk to your employer, talk to your professional body. They will be able to provide very relevant advice.
Anita, Jermaine has covered a lot about his skills framework for the accountancy sector. Would you like to share something about your lifted?
Thank you
over
so
at your field?
much. Yes, I would, Daniel. You know me, always up for an opportunity to talk about lifted. So the reason why Daniel mentions it is because we are also working with Temasek Poly's School of Law and Management to effect some parts of it. But essentially, it's a skills framework for the legal services sector, right? And the idea is to elevate the conversation around about skills and roles beyond the traditional notion of your guild-like legal professional who is the lawyer in a law firm, right? So yes, kind of the legal industry tends to be synonymous traditionally with that model where you're talking about the lawyer in a law firm. But the legal industry today is an incredibly diverse field of opportunity. So you have your lawyers in your law firm. They are the deep subject matter experts doing high-end advisory work. They are an important part of the ecosystem. But in addition to your advisory and advocacy work, which are regulated functions within the legal industry, you have a whole host of other professionals, legal professionals and allied legal professionals who participate in the legal services delivery process. Who are they? So if, for example, you are legally qualified, you want to practice in an outfit other than a law firm, then the lawyer business person is your in-house counsel, right? And they live in basically legal departments in everything from SMEs to MNCs. They wear that dual hat of not just providing subject matter expertise in an legal advisory capacity, but they're deeply connected with the business. So commercial acumen is something that is incredibly important for someone like an in-house counsel who is that conduit between the legal function and the business function of the organization. But beyond your in-house counsel, even if you do not have a law degree, we're increasingly finding that there are pathways in the legal industry for technologists. So if you're a talented IT specialist, there are opportunities for you to find a career in the legal industry that looks at how processes of automation, digitalization can help improve the legal services delivery process, right? Knowledge management. We talk about data all day long, but gone are the days when a knowledge manager was basically a librarian. Increasingly, the role of knowledge management is to make sure that you are capturing data in a way that makes sense, making sense of that data in a way that adds value, so that you're preserving value for posterity, right? For your organization to benefit from down the line. We have learning and development professionals such as myself. My own journey in the law was went to law school, did my practice training contract and decided, yeah, no, not for me. And then I had to figure out what to do with my life. And, 20 years ago, your options were very limited. You either were in a law firm or you went in-house or you became a legal academic. And if not for a chance encounter with a newspaper ad, yes, back in the days when we hunted for jobs in the newspaper, SAL was advertising a role for a legal editor. I didn't have any editorial skills, so I applied for the role as a junior editorial professional. And that kind of kickstarted my pathway down a very different trajectory. And through it all, as Jameen mentioned, of course, there's anxiety. Any change will come, with anxiety. But the idea is to not let that fear hold you back. It's how do you leverage fear to help you fly, right? And you do that by talking it out with people who have walked that journey and affording yourself of the many, many, many resources that are now out there. Go check out the SkillsFuture website, right? If you're looking at roles and competencies and pathways and programs and funding for those programs, the SkillsFuture website is a great resource. The jobs portal, WSQ, for example, WSG has a jobs portal. You can put up your resumes in there. For the legal industry, it's the lifted framework, right? So I've dropped the URL in the discussion board. You can go to sal.org.sg/lifted. You can access a learning needs analysis tool, which basically allows you to identify what your skills gaps for particular roles are. and then it links you with programs to help you, address that gap, right? Because we're not talking about radical reinvention. We're talking about evolution. And evolution means where's your gap, address the gap, find an opportunity, and build on that. So really, I think the biggest challenge I would say for anyone kind of navigating uh, the the changes in skills and jobs that digitalization has brought on, the biggest challenge is going to be uh, inertia, right? The part of your brain that tells you, oh well, really, do I want to put in the extra effort? Put in the effort, right? No one ever got anywhere from not putting in any effort. And then be bold. Go out there, ask, knock on doors, because there's opportunity there. You just have to want to go out and get it. And so knock on my door if you are interested in internships or anything like that. We're always looking for talented professionals from other disciplines, because increasingly you are the allied legal professionals that help with legal services delivery. And you can find out more about the roles in the lifted career constellation at the URL I just shared.
Yep. Lovely. Thank you, Anita. I think there are still quite a fair bit of questions, some of which have already been answered. But because we have only approximately 4 minutes left, let's do a quick snapshot, okay? I think Anonymous asked about fintech and all the other items that are skills related to fintech. So I'm going to just do the disruption to our sharing, and I'm going to say that the question actually was, in the area of fintech, what are the skills that are needed? Actually, for that Anonymous, maybe I'll just let me just disrupt the slideshow for a while. Okay, right, and I'll show you this. Actually, in the area of fintech, and I know some of you come into this space, and banks, they are really going into 4 clear elements within the banking industry and the fintech industry. There will be core data programming capabilities. There will be soft skills, multidisciplinary project management and development. There will be basically core banking skills, because you can't go into fintech or into a banking job without knowing what the banks and how they operate and how payment and the systems, the financial systems behind operate. And of course, the last part, which actually Jermaine talks about and Anita talks about, is making business sense and interfacing with your customers. So the UI, UX portions are also very important. Actually, guys, I see so many questions and they are so interesting. It's unfortunate we don't have that much time, but what I want to underline is that we have been answering your questions throughout this whole particular session. Maybe to end off in a way this sharing, because we have not many minutes left. Jermaine and Anita, maybe I could have your inputs to this question. What advice would you give to members of the audience if they're starting out in the profession or trying to start a career in it? Because I think there were quite a few for mid-career switchers and others who are also talking about starting on their jobs, starting a new as a fresh undergraduate. Back to you guys.
Okay, maybe I start off first. Hope to do it in 1 minute so that Anita has also time. Okay, so I think in terms of advice, always be open to learning. Okay, in terms of career advice, do take a look at the skills framework that I've mentioned a lot. You can go to SAC's or the SkillsFuture website as well. We have identified all the relevant job roles. Okay, I mentioned 43 job roles in the accountancy sector, and this also talks about the kind of skills that are required across the different 43 job roles. Okay, in addition, okay, we will also want to touch on, take a look at the training programs that we have curated, on our website. We have created some training programs. Take a look at them, okay, as well as consider taking what the government has invested heavily in, the Chartered Accountant Qualification Program, Singapore Chartered Accountant Qualification Program, as well as the Chartered Value and Appraisal Program. So these are areas where the government has invested a lot to develop 2 certifications for our local accountants, which are internationally recognized, portable, okay, and the unique thing is there's an Asian perspective, okay. So do take a look at this, okay, and we encourage you to consider taking on these programs. Okay, over to you, Anita.
Thanks, Jamin. I mean, everything that Jamin said, and for me, I think whether you're starting off in your career or a mid-career professional looking to make a change, find a good mentor, right? Find someone that either mirrors the values of lifelong learning or the spirit of professional adventure that you feel will help you thrive, and then use them as a support system. Because, like I said, it's not without its challenges. There's nothing to be afraid of, but it helps to have someone to talk to kind of intentionally and intelligently about options and resources. So find yourself a good mentor, and you know what? Be bold, right? Look at it as this: like, if you aren't your own best advocate, then how else are you going to convince anyone else out there? So be informed, find a mentor, and be bold. Would be my advice to both sets of people.
Okay, I think it's now to me. So I'm going to do a plug for Temasek Poly. Right, everyone. Yes, as you know, I'm also from Temasek Poly. So my part of the sharing would be, for me, the advice to you will be to keep upgrading yourself. Scan the environment with your mentors, scan the environment with the skills framework, but keep upgrading yourself. At Temasek Poly, our school leaders have been advocating how digital skills, multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary skills are complementary to business domain skills. In our accountancy program, for example, we are working with SAC on RPA projects, supporting them for digitalizing the small and medium accounting practices. We have worked with SAL to introduce the Singapore Academy of Law basic legal tax cert for our students. We are also in the midst of digitalizing further our adult learning program. For example, I mean, I'm not talking about insurance or financial advisory, but there's one program here. We have really pivoted, from the financial planning, pure financial planning, into when you market, why don't you use social digital marketing, digital media for marketing? When you are looking at your client's need, why don't you look at data analytics to figure out new needs that may be emerging and what your services are? Are there clients who could benefit from it? We are in the midst of digitalizing also further our adult learning and introducing the multidisciplinary practices into it. So with that, I think I am glad to bring this session to a close. Maybe I would like to thank Jermaine and Anita from SAC and SAL respectively for helping me bring this message of hope to our people, and the encouragement to strike out, because I think in Singapore, and we are close to National Day, right? We look out for each other. Yeah, we look out for each other. Fellow Singaporeans, with that, happy National Day. Over to you, and Jermaine and Anita for some final words of farewell, maybe.
Anita first.
No, I think we're actually getting the signal to wrap up. So just everyone stay safe and well, and peace out.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Daniel Ng, Miss Anita Farkash, and Mr. Jamin Ong for the great sharing and insights. We have come to the end of the session. Thank you all for attending. You will be provided with a survey right after this session, and we would love to hear some of your valuable feedback. Thank you again for joining us, and continue to enjoy the rest of the sessions today.
Thank you. So sorry.
Thank you so much.